Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just admit it up front. Prepositions are famously frustrating. But listen, we are going to master them today, and absolutely not by endlessly memorizing some dusty textbook. We're going to do it by understanding how the English language fundamentally views the world. You see, prepositions rarely translate directly from other languages. They actually force us to conceptually map out space and time in a completely different way. It is a really fascinating glimpse into the mechanics of English, and I promise you, once you grasp the underlying logic, it becomes incredibly intuitive. So get this, there are literally over 150 prepositions in the English language, covering everything from above to within. And yet, it's these three little ones, in, on, and at, that account for the vast majority of our daily mistakes. They seem deceptively simple, right? Just two tiny letters each. But they are the exact words that cause that frustrating moment of hesitation right before you speak, totally interrupting your conversational flow. Well, today, we decode them for good. Now, you might be wondering, why does mastering this matter so much? It matters because one tiny word can fundamentally shift reality in a conversation. Picture this scenario. If you tell someone, "I'm in the hospital," you are actually implying that you're a patient receiving medical treatment. But if you say, "I'm at the hospital," you mean you're simply there visiting someone or maybe just walking through the lobby. That is a massive difference in context, and it all pivots on a single preposition. We want to eliminate that kind of accidental miscommunication entirely. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the core rule. We can really unlock this whole thing by understanding the philosophy behind the rule. English treats time exactly like physical space. And to see how this works, I want you to visualize an expanding triangle, okay? At the very bottom, the sharpest tip of that triangle is at. It's hyper-specific, like a single pinpoint. Then moving up the triangle, it gets a bit wider with on. This represents flat surfaces or specific individual days. Finally, at the wide top of the triangle, we have in. This expands into a full three-dimensional container, a vast geographical area, or a really wide encompassing span of time. Moving right along to section 2, time and place examples. Let's test out that expanding triangle in the real world, starting with that sharp pinpoint at the bottom. Think of at as a dart, hitting a highly specific target on a clock or a map. When you say, "I wake up at 6:30, or "meet me at the door," you are locking onto an exact coordinate. There's zero ambiguity about the when or the where. It's a precise intersection point in space and time that you can point to with absolute certainty. Now let's expand slightly to on. Take the phrases, "We have English on Monday," and "the book is on the table." You might be thinking, what does a piece of furniture have in common with Monday? Why do they share the exact same preposition? Well, it's because English conceptualizes a day of the week as a flat block of time on a calendar page. You interact with that day conceptually exactly like you interact with the flat, physical surface of a table, a wall, or a floor. Kind of a game changer when you think about it that way, right? And finally, we reach the widest part of our triangle at the top with in. For example, my birthday is in June, and she lives in Riyadh. I want you to think of in strictly as a container with distinct boundaries. June is a container that literally holds 30 individual days. Riyadh is a massive geographical container that holds millions of people, streets, and buildings. By visualizing in as a bucket that physically encloses time or space, the whole categorization starts to make perfect logical sense. Let's move to section 3, fixing common mistakes. It is incredibly common to face linguistic interference right here. You might be tempted to just translate the grammatical rules directly from your native language into English, and that often leads to conversational missteps like saying, "I study at Monday." But remember our calendar rule. Monday is not a hyperspecific coordinate on a clock, it's a flat block of time. Applying that underlying philosophy we just talked about, we instantly know it must be on Monday. Once you understand the why behind it, it completely prevents the error from ever happening again. All right, time to test your skills with section 4, the mini quiz challenge. Okay, here we go. The lesson starts blank 8 o'clock. Does it take in or at? Take a second. I want you to visualize that clock face. The hands are pointing to a precise, unmoving coordinate in your day. It is the absolute sharpest tip of our expanding triangle, which means the only logical fit here is for sure at. Let's pivot back over to physical space. The cat is blank the box. So is the box a flat surface we rest upon, or is it a three-dimensional container with definitive boundaries? Because the box holds volume and physically encloses the space around the cat, it acts exactly like our widest conceptual bucket. Therefore, we definitely use in. Next one, we travel blank Friday. Now, whether it's a random Friday, your birthday, or New Year's Day, any specific date marked on a calendar falls squarely under our flat surface day rule. The day rule trumps everything else, firmly making the correct answer here, on. How did you do? So, now you've got the structural tools to actually use this in your own life, mapping out precisely when and where you plan to put this into practice. But before we wrap up this explainer, consider this for a second. We have just mastered how English handles physical space and tangible time. But what happens when we move to abstract spaces? Like, are you in the internet or on the internet? Are you at a movie or in a movie? Think about how these rules might stretch, bend, or even totally break to fit the digital world. And we will absolutely tackle that mystery next time.